And a person that I actually thought was my first love, and it ends up he was my first addiction. Like, he was a person addiction that emotionally, psychologically was an incredibly abusive situation for me to be in at a young age. When I was 18, he returned into my life when I was 28. And I had always thought that that was my ticket out. Like, that was the knight on the white horse that came in to rescue me, like all the fairy tales. And if you ride away with this prince, you'll never have a worry again. You'll never have to worry about money. You'll never have to worry about anything.
So when did you realize you had a problem?
Yeah, it was easy to disguise for a very long time. It all came crashing down in 2009 when I had what looked on paper to be a great life. You know, I had achieved this job that, you know, the glass windows looking over the lake, and I had the car with the 3 letters, and I had a husband and a house, and I thought I was making it. I was 28 years old. And what actually happened, and I hate telling these stories. Like, it's really awful to go back to this place, but it's important for people to know, like, you know, who you can be when you're not sober versus who you can be when you are. And a person that I actually thought was my first love, and it ends up he was my first addiction. Like, he was a person addiction that emotionally, psychologically was an incredibly abusive situation for me to be in at a young age. When I was 18, he returned into my life when I was 28. And I had always thought that that was my ticket out. Like, that was the knight on the white horse that came in to rescue me, like all the fairy tales. And if you ride away with this prince, you'll never have a worry again. You'll never have to worry about money. You'll never have to worry about anything. And so I left my husband and I went and pursued this fantasy of being with this other person. And in that process, I lost my job. I lost my car. My family sided with my husband because my husband was amazing and sane and awesome. And I very obviously was not at that moment. But I left everything to go pursue this fantasy, and very abruptly, just like the first time, imagine that, you know, very abruptly, that became boring for him, and that ended. And then I was left with nothing. So I had no house. I was completely just destitute. And it was like a country song backwards, you know, like I lost my house and my car and my dog and my family and my husband and the whole thing. So I went and stayed on a friend's couch. And man, I remember him driving away and being left feeling so hopeless that, again, if this dream didn't give me everything in life, then what, you know, why bother? Like, why bother with relationships? Why bother with jobs? Why bother with family? Because they just leave you when it gets rough anyway. That was my thinking, right? That all or nothing. And so I became suicidal. I just felt so hopeless and helpless that I wanted the pain to stop. And I ended up checking myself into an IOP, or an intensive outpatient program for depression. And part of that program, because, you know, alcoholism or anything with addiction in it was totally not okay in my family. Like, no one would ever admit to that. But you could admit maybe to a depression. Like, mental illness was a little softer, right? That they could tell their friends. Yeah. And I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying that was the social construct we're in.
To get a free copy of the 12-step guide that I created for you, click on the link in the description below.
So when you showed up to the IOP, did you tell the IOP, yeah, I have depression and also maybe a little alcoholism? Or did you just say, no, just depression?
Not a problem with alcohol. No, it was all
okay, because we're working, you know, in the business. We get people like that. I mean, imagine that, right? They show up, they're like, oh, no, I don't have a problem with drugs. I don't have a problem with alcohol. It's just depression. It's just anxiety. It's just whatever. And we quickly find out that, yeah, you're probably not being totally honest. Okay, so go ahead.
And I mean, I really, to myself, I was being as honest as I ever could be, but I had no idea that that was an issue. Like I said, I self-defined as being a party girl, and being that didn't mean I had a problem with alcohol. It just meant that's what I did. That's what I was good at, right? I went down to the clubs and to the bars, and I knew people and people knew me. And so I felt like, you know, that was where I got my identity from. So when I went into the treatment program, I remember the first day after the intake, the director hands me this sheet of paper, and it was a list of 100 feelings. And she goes, I think you probably have some trouble identifying these. And I looked at them and I was like, I didn't know that there were 100 feelings. Like, not only do I not know how to identify, I couldn't have written them all down on a list. And that's how it began. And then they said, well, as part of this 30-day program, you have to not drink alcohol for 30 days. And I just started laughing. And I was like, I don't have a problem with alcohol. I'm here for depression treatment, right? I'm here for you to fix everyone else in my life and help me to manage them. Because if I can get them under control with their expectations and their behaviors, then I'll be okay. That's what I wanted. Program. And they were like, okay, but let's start with you not drinking for 30 days. And I was like, what part of that didn't you understand? I don't have a problem with alcohol. And they're like, good, then show us.
Yeah, no, it's the best. It's the best. We have sober living homes, and when people come to us with the depression, the anxiety, it's like, okay, well, since alcohol is not a problem, it won't be a problem not to drink for 30, 60 days while you're here, right? And it's like, whoa, wait a second. Yeah, right.
Right. And so very quickly, and then I was like, I got cocky about it. And I was like, well, okay, fine. I can do that because I don't have a problem. Right. And so if that was what I needed to do, then I was, of course, I was just going to fly through that test. And sure enough, it ended up that it was a lot harder because without the alcohol, it was no fun to go to the bars. And at the bars was where I sought validation from guys. And that was what filled me, like my own self-worth, right?
If you got value from this video, if you heard what you needed to hear, be sure to like it. Comment if you've got a question or you have something to say. Subscribe to the channel. Camelback Recovery provides treatment services for people struggling with mental health, mental illness, addiction, alcoholism, whatever it may be. So if you or a loved one is struggling and you need some guidance and you need some direction, reach out to us. Our contact information is down below, or you can go to our website, camelbackrecovery.com, whether it be detox, inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, sober living, recovery coaching, sober companion services, whatever it may be. Like I said, we can either help you or make sure that you get sent in the right direction. We help people all over the country, all over the world for that matter. I'll see you on the next video.